Hey everybody, Captain Bill here, and today we're going to contrast a successful anchoring with one that was, well, not. A few years ago, we put up a blog post about our approach to anchoring. It makes a good companion read to this video. There's a link in the comments below. Sometimes you see something done with such cluelessness, you have to wonder how could things get this bad. This was a good-looking boat with all the right kit, but they proved that having the best gear doesn't help if you have no idea how to use it. I wish I could say I had staged this as a simulated bad example, but I did not. What you see here is exactly how it happened. Watch and laugh, or maybe just weep. Now this was their fourth try to put down an anchor here. We've been anchoring in this spot regularly for almost 10 years. Never have we needed a second try or dragged at all in the thick, deep mud that's about 30 feet deep. Let's watch, and I'll comment on the issues as they show up. The first problem starts right here. He has no idea how to use the windlass clutch to lower the anchor, so he's managing the anchor chain by hand. The anchor appears to be an 80 or 100 pound mantis, hanging straight down, attached to 30 feet of chain. That would be 120 to 150 pounds hanging down under your boat. Trying to control that by letting it slide through your fingers is incredibly dangerous. The next issue comes up immediately. There's no good reason to leave the anchor swinging free from the chain while you motor the boat to your final spot. One boat wake coming by and that anchor will be swinging its pointy end right into your hull. Now, although he's asked for the boat to stop, he begins to lower the anchor while the boat's still making way forward. Far better, for lots of reasons, is to have the boat stopped, or better yet, starting its drift backward before letting the chain out. Now we go from bad to hopeless. Notice the boat's still moving forward and the chain is hanging straight down. The only way this is possible is that the anchor is not yet on the bottom. But for some reason, he's decided this is the point where he'll attach his bridle. Now the bridle here looks to be a stock one available from Mantis. It's a good piece of kit. The legs are about 26 feet long, so when he finishes here, the anchor can be no more than about 55 feet below the boat. This is a totally inadequate scope and will never work. But as bad as this is, can you believe it's gonna get worse? Okay, now hit it. They begin motoring in reverse at high speed. The anchor is nowhere near the bottom, but is sailing along high above all that nasty mud down there. But what happens next is a bit surprising. The boat eventually stops. With no further checking or testing the hold, they pronounce it good and wrap things up. But you might be wondering, how could that have happened? Well, here's the chart of the location. What they've done is backed into the shallow water on the edge. Fortunately for them, the rapidly rising bottom caught their anchor before they rammed the rocks rudder first. This is one of the worst examples of anchoring technique we've ever seen. If I had any expectations of ending up downwind of this boat, I would quickly move very, very far away. Before we move to show you a better way of anchoring, take a second to subscribe and like this video. If you think it's worth something, visit my Patreon link in the comments and join me there. With that, let's have a look at our procedure. We're coming into this anchorage outside of No Name Harbor on the southern tip of Key Biscayne. As you can see, there are a number of boats, but they're not really tightly packed. To avoid making this a tediously long video, I'm going to cut out the bits where nothing happens and speed up the action in places. Karen starts by getting the needed gear ready. The chain hook is taken out, which we will use as a chain stopper at the very end of the process. The wired remote for the windlass is connected and made ready. The safety line securing the anchor while we sail is removed. Then Karen goes aft to retrieve the snubber line. As the boat slows down, we're in kind of a complex situation. There's a strong current on the bow and a significant cross breeze. The boat is going to move in unpredictable ways as we come to a stop, but this isn't really a big deal. The water here at high tide is about 12 feet deep. I'll be targeting a final scope of 6 to 1, more or less. The initial drop of the anchor will be down to the bottom, plus a few feet. I'm going to be watching the chain counter at the helm so I know what's happening. Once the boat moves back a bit, I'll put out the rest of the chain when I'm sure it will not pile up on top of the anchor. In this case, I initially let out 60 feet of chain. We'll be adding an additional 40 feet from the snubber, so adding the 5 feet from our bow to the surface to that 12-foot depth puts us at a scope of 100 feet of chain divided by 17 feet, or just about exactly 6. A conservative number, and there's a lot of room here to swing. The snubber is now tied on with a simple rolling hitch with a generous tail. The boat continues to drift back, and we let out enough chain that it hangs slack, and the snubber takes the load. Next step up here is to attach the chain hook, and again slack the chain so all the load is off the windlass. We'll later set the anchor alarm, and after a few minutes pull on the anchor with the engine to give it a bit of a test, but the bottom here is clear deep sand, so there's unlikely to be any issue. Now we can sleep well, anchored tight, in a good safe spot.